Hi, welcome back to We Are Wool People. My name is Ailsa and on this channel we talk about knitting. Last weekend I went to the Australian Sheep and Wool show in Bendigo with my friend Donna and our husbands, and as usual we had a fantastic weekend. In my case, actually, I should probably call it a Victorian country cocktail bar crawl with a side of yarn shopping, but today I'm just going to talk about the wool show. So the Australian Sheep and Wool show is held every year in Bendigo, and they say that it is the largest of this kind of event in the world. It has competitions and showcases the versatility and wondrousness of the sheep. Not only is there a huge marketplace for yarn and fibre artists and makers, there's also an enormous 2 great big sheds full of sheep of all kinds of different breeds, not just sheep that are bred for their wool but also sheep that are bred for their meat. And they have sheep competitions and sheep sales. And there are a lot of agricultural aspects to the show. They have exhibitions of farming equipment, they have social events, get-togethers, they have shearing, they have lambs, and it's a weekend in celebration of the sheep. It was fantastic. It's a great weekend, and I would really recommend it to anyone who is interested in, I guess, the agricultural history of Australia. It's hard to think about the agricultural history of Australia without kind of thinking about the Indigenous and Aboriginal people of Australia and the checkered and fraught kind of circumstances around farming in Australia. It's complicated. That's very serious. I went with my friend Donna, and she is a prolific and very talented knitter, and she wore her Wervel pullover, which is one of the patterns in neon and neutrals from La Bien Amie, and I'm glad I went with her, and I'm glad she wore that, because during the day when it got busy I could always look around for the brightest, most fluoro jumper I could see in my periphery, and that was her. So I didn't lose her. I went with a pretty firm plan of what I wanted to buy and what I wanted to support, because there are over 200 vendors, I think, at the show. You can't support them all. So what I think I'll do is I think that I'll just talk about the vendors that I purchased from and show you what I bought and what I plan on using those things for. I think I'll start with the accessories and the fun things. When we got there, one of the first things I did want to see was to go and see 111 Windmills so that I could buy these sock blockers. Aren't they fantastic? I'll show you up close. Beautifully made sock blockers, and they were packaged so meticulously. It was a real pleasure to buy these and to support this business. I have bought things from her in the past, but these are really special. Now, my friend Donna said to me, and she's made many, many, many more socks than I have. She said, "I've never blocked a sock." And I said, "Well, neither have I, but I have now." But anyway, but I still like these sock blockers, and I really like hanging them up in my studio on the wall. When you walk in, they're up there on the wall. They look great, and I love them. So that was my purchase number 1, my pink sock blockers from 111 Windmills. And we arrived at 111 Windmills at exactly the same time that the posse of knitting YouTubers from Australia all also arrived at 111 Windmills, and I had my first of embarrassing moments when I walked up to one of the YouTubers and said, "Is Kelly coming later?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yes, I think Kelly's coming later." And she was smiling and nodding and smiling and nodding, and I 5 minutes into the conversation before I realised it actually wasn't the person I thought it was, but she looked familiar to me because I'd seen her podcast, and it was Perfect Pairings. I don't know her name, but I'd seen her podcast, and then when I saw her, she looked familiar to me, and in my mind, I thought she was someone else, and I thought she was my friend from Sydney's, Kelly's friend. Oh, long story, honestly. I'm getting myself into another muddle here, but basically, I made an idiot of myself. Would not be the first time, and certainly won't be the last. Anyway, in the end, I did work it out. I went, "I don't know you, do I?" And she's like, "No." And I went, "Sorry. But I do know that you've got a YouTube channel, right?" She goes, "Yes." And I went, "Oh, well, that's where you look familiar, and that's why I've mixed it up." Anyway, so, first got there, we decided that we would do a lap of all the two pavilions, and then we would go back and buy what we wanted to buy. But I did get those sock blockers because I was very concerned that they were going to sell out. Then I made a fool of myself with the YouTuber. And then I turned around and took 5 steps this way and ran into Sarah and Paige from Two Pearls in a Pod and fairly died of fandom. So I made a fool of myself again. But they were very gracious and very friendly and lovely. And I was really excited to meet them, actually. They were very, very lovely. But that was brief, and I didn't, I just chatted to them and went, "Oh my goodness," that I'm having a bit of starstruckness. I should have taken a photo, but I didn't. Anyway, then we did a lap of all the wool selling places, and then we went back and sat down and decided what we were going to knit. Now, in Rhinebeck at the Sheep and Wool show that is in upstate New York every year, they have what's known as the Rhinebeck sweater. And in recent years, Andrea Mowry has designed the Rhinebeck sweater. Years and years ago, it wasn't her who did it, but there always was a sweater that was designed as the Rhinebeck sweater, but Andrea Mowry's designed them a couple of years in a row. They don't have that for the Bendigo or the Australian Sheep and Wool, but maybe they should. And I think that if they did have the Australian sheep, I keep calling it the Bendigo Sheep and Wool. I think I'm just going to let myself do that instead of correcting myself every time. But I think if they did have a cardigan of the show or a sweater of the show, then this year it would have been Sanna and Co's Alma cardigan, which was released very close to the show. And I remember seeing it on Instagram. I'm actually doing a test knit for Susanna from Sanna and Co. Myself, I've just finished it. I showed it to her when I was at the show, but it's secret, so we had to get it out, show it, put it away. But she had a stall at the show, and she was really promoting her Alma cardigan, and they were everywhere. I saw everywhere we went, there were Alma cardigans left, right and centre, and they're really, really lovely. Now, Susanna was selling kits made from Louie and Lola for the Alma cardigan, and they were kits that were made from a New Zealand merino possum blend, and I really, really liked those kits, but I didn't buy one because A, the expense, and B, I kind of had I don't know. I know they're a pest, but they've got to die to get the possum yarn, to get the possum fibre. I know they're a pest. I know they're in New Zealand. I know they get culled anyway, so they're going to get killed anyway. You may as well use the wool. But then foxes are a pest and I don't wear fox fur either. I don't know. Just at that moment, I didn't really like the idea of killing all those possums. Although the yarn is very beautiful. So the other place that everybody goes to when you go to the Australian Sheep and Wool show in Bendigo is everybody goes to Bendigo Woolen Mill. The apartment that we were staying in, or the hotel we were staying in, was very, very close to the Bendigo Woolen Mill, like 5-minute walk. So we went in there a few times, but I bought from the Bendigo Woolen Mill the fixins to make my own Alma cardigan. And I really liked the sample that Susanna was wearing herself, the sea green and the aqua and the beige sample. So I bought these. It's 2 balls of Bendigo Luxury 8-ply in stone. And these are huge 200-gram balls with, I don't know, a lot of meterage. 400 metres. So there's 800 metres of 8-ply yarn there. And then to do the colour work, I bought a 200-gram ball of Prism in the shade Mystic, which, as you can see, is a blue-green oceanic colour changing yarn that I think is going to make a really nice Alma cardigan. Another seller who was at the show was, I think it's Melbourne City Dye Works, and their stall had a lot of lovely yarns, but also some really fantastic fun knitting accessories. And I got a couple of bits and pieces from them. I've seen that a lot of people have bought earrings from, you know, knitting themed earrings. That's not really me, I'm not likely to wear those. But I did buy these really cool stitch markers. I really love them actually. They are little rainbow coloured stitch markers with numbers on them, obviously, so to keep track of your rows. Now I bought one set, got another set with fewer numbers on them as well. I don't know why I feel like there's more on this one than this one. There obviously isn't. I don't know. Anyway. So fluoro ones, and they're cute. I then also got a progress keeper that I think is genius. It has the instructions for Kitchener stitch. There you go. Aren't they cool? So, you know, set up purl in the front, knit in the back, leave the setup stitches on, front, knit off, purl on, back, purl off, knit on. So cool. And I also got Progress Keeper that explains how to do a make one left and a make one right. And I think they will be very useful. Needles. I bought some needles that are sock knitting needles that I've never used before. As a matter of fact, I've seen them and I've never really clocked as to what they are. What they are three, very, very short circular needles. And what it's for is for socks and small circumference tube knitting. And you put half the stitches on one and half the stitches on another, and then you knit with the third, and hence going round and round and round. And I do feel like that this could well be a very fast and very smooth way of knitting socks with a really great flow. So I'm going to cast on a pair of socks using these, and I'll let you know. I'm looking forward to that actually. I got those in a 2mm, and my friend Donna bought a pair the same, because I don't know how long they've been out for, but I like the idea of innovation in the knitting. So the knitting revolution in small rounds. With this 3-piece set of flexible double-pointed knitting needles, you can knit even the smallest diameters without getting tired. Great. So that was that. Now I think that's pretty much, oh no, that's not it for the accessories. I also got from this Lush corner the most beautiful, cute pair of scissors. Oh. And they are Japanese, I think, and they're supposed to be shaped like a mermaid. They're beautiful, and they've got a nice weight, and they're matte and black and look very Japanese and designer, so I like them. They feel very luxurious. And oh, I'll show you this other thing while I'm here. Someone gave me a present, and it's this tin of gear that she's picked up from Temu. Now we're not going to go into the rightness or wrongness of buying things from Temu. Everybody has to make their own decisions. I would say though, if you buy something from Amazon, it's the same thing. But in here, in this little tin, are some fantastic little knitting accessories, all gift wrapped in a little pink tin, which I really like. There's a pair of scissors, and they're really lovely too. They've got a hologram handle, and they're very sharp. They're really high quality. Little snippy scissors. There is, in this little box that she made up, there is a tape measure. Pink tape measure. Cute. A little wooden knitting needle sizer and small ruler. Cute. Some darning needles. Some pink stitch markers which are the open spiral ones. These really tiny and cute end stoppers. And a little trio stackable jar of these metallic just ring stitch markers. Oh, wait, more. 2 of the little end stoppers and a little fancy cable needle. All of that in this little box, which is very cute. And I might mention it now, if this channel gets to 500 subscribers, I'm going to give one of these away. I'm going to get Donna to make up one for a lucky subscriber, and I'm going to give one away. So at the moment we've got about 300 and something subscribers, so if we get to 500, I'm going to give one of these away. Right, so then, on to the yarn. I also bought, while I was at Bendigo, 2 skeins of multicoloured sock yarn in this colour called Dazzling Jewels. It's so well priced, the Bendigo Woolen Mills yarn, it's not even funny. And I do feel like this kind of colourway and this particular yarn, their multicoloured sock yarn, does in fact give off quite strong dyed in the wool vibes. And given that dyed in the wool is like $60 a skein for some of the range, and this is like less than $14 for a 100 gram ball, then you're looking at a real bargain there. So I was talking about this Lush corner. Every time I go to this Lush corner, they're from Canberra, they go to quite a few shows, and I've seen them a few times in the last couple of months. Every time I go to that show, to that stall, I find something I like. And this time was no exception. I picked up 5 balls of this Kremke Morning Salutation, which is a yarn that's made up of tencel cotton, lyocell and cotton. And it's in this really lovely orange colour. And the lyocell in it, the tencel in it, gives it a beautiful sheen, but the cotton still gives it a nice, natural, kind of rustic character. And what I'm going to do with this is going to be the Sabai top by Suzanne Muller, which at the moment is one of the 2 projects that I plan to knit for spring summer. And right now I only have plans to make 2 spring summer knits because I appear to have extended the queue on my autumn winter knits. For a start, we're adding an Alma cardigan to our queue so far. So yes, 5 skeins of Creme Morning Salutation in this lovely orange colour to make a Sabai top. I then bought another Bean skein, another skein of the Sport Weight non-mulesed soft rolling skin merino from Great Southern Yarn in the colour Bean to match the ones that I already have, because I'm a little bit concerned. I'm making the Joanna Ang rib wave pullover, and I'm a little bit concerned that I was going to run out of yarn. So that is insurance, not yarn purchase. We saw Catherine at the Australian Wool store, another business I really like to support. She's a really nice person, and her posse of friends that she had working with her today at the show, they all had the same kind of gored long denim maxi skirt on as their uniform, and they all looked great because there's a real range of different body shapes and heights of the people that were working for her, and they've all wearing the same skirt. They were great. They're funny and always good for a chat and a laugh. So from Catherine at the Australian Wool store, I got a skein of their mohair silk in this really beautiful colour, and a skein of their 100% superwash merino in a kind of coordinating colour to make a hat. And I think I'm going to make the Oslo hat by Petite Knits. This colourway and this project is very heavily inspired by Paige from Two Pearls in a Pod's bright mohair hat that she knitted, that she was actually wearing when I saw her, and I didn't mention it to her because it looked fantastic on her. It really, really suited her. And I want what she's got. So I've got this to make a hat similar to that. My next yarn purchase is the most exciting one, I think. There's a yarn dyer from Newcastle called Purl Yarns, and she's been in the business for a few years, and her colourways are really beautiful. They're very muted, they're very understated, and they're, in my opinion, very, very special. And she has a range of non-superwash, ecologically sustainable and ethically sourced yarns. She's always had a strong ethos about the production of her yarns and the dyeing of her yarns. And I have for years wanted a sweater quantity of yarn from Pirate Purl. And last weekend was the day. I actually got her to help me with my colour selection because, as you know, I know, if you're a returning viewer, that I believe that colour selection is a talent, not a skill, and I don't have that talent. But what I want to make is, I really want to make Sari Nordland's Pochiola, which is a colour work yoked pullover that was released a few months ago, and I'm so excited because I think the one I'm going to make with these is going to be really beautiful. So I bought it's their Blackbeard base, which is Polwarth and silk, so very luxurious, and in this beautiful honey colour. The colour's called Cafe au Lait, which is, you know, the perfect name for this colour. It's a really gorgeous. The light in here is mostly artificially lit, so I don't know if you're going to be getting a true representation of the colour. It's quite warm, the light that I'm filming under today. But this is actually a really beautiful, warm, pinkish beige, and I bought 3 skeins of that as the base colour. Australian yarn for the adventurous spirit. Don't you love that? That just sounds great to me. And then the Pochiola is a 3-coloured colourwork pullover. The other 2 colours I got were this cork, which is very tonal with the Cafe au Lait, as you can see. And then I wasn't sure what to go with those. We started with a chocolate colour, and I do think that you could probably pick like even a fairly bright blue in there, but what we went for was this one called Battle Station, which is a really muted kind of purple, browny purple. So they're the 3 colours that I chose for my Pochiola. And my friend Donna also bought yarn to make a Pochiola herself, and we're going to make that together. I'd call it a knit-along, but I've noticed on Instagram that she's already started, and she's literally this far down the yoke, and I haven't started at all yet. So it's going to be a knit-along, but I think she'll be finished before I start. But I got that from Purl, and I'm really excited about that. That's lovely. And then I thought that I was finished. And I sat down and had a coffee, and then we did one last little lap. And on the way out, almost, I stumbled upon Wagtail Yarns. They are a mohair farm, a mohair goat farm in Queensland. And actually Donna said that she was in Queensland, her husband is from up that way, and they were driving around the countryside and they saw a sign that said sheep or goats or something, mohair, or go up here and see some wool. So they went up there and she visited their farm and said it was, you know, a great little find in the countryside, which was just a coincidence and an opportunity that she had. Anyway, I saw this on the rack and I couldn't resist it. But I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I still couldn't resist it. This is, they make a fine kid mohair. This is from the mohair goats that they have on their property. But their mohair is not brushed. And so it doesn't have the real fluffy halo that the mohair silk blends have, or that your traditional mohairs have. It still does have a halo, but what it does have is a phenomenal gloss. So I picked up these 290 gram skeins, 290 grams here and 290 grams here, making a total of 580 grams of yarn. And look at the colour, can you see? In this unbelievably beautiful shell pink colour. Dark, dusty pink. 0809. Dark, both the same dye lot. And in here is over 1,000 metres of yarn. It does say that it's a sport weight, baby or sport weight 4-ply. It seems very fine when you actually look at the thickness of the yarn itself, but with the halo and with the loftiness of it, I think that you could probably knit it up. It recommends, a 3.25 millimetre yarn, needle rather, and it recommends a gauge of 24 stitches. So I might have a look on Ravelry at patterns that use that gauge to see what I could make with this yarn. because really there's a lot there. I could make anything really, but it's very, very beautiful. I feel like I'm entering my luxury yarn era. But that is it for what I bought at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show. Next weekend, the New South Wales Knitters Guild has its biannual knitting gathering, the Gathering, which is a camp that's on at Stanwell Park, which is about half an hour from where I live. I'm not staying up at the Gathering this year, but I have got a day ticket for next Saturday that starts very early, and we are, Don and I, are going to a workshop by Anne Budd in the morning on fixing knitting mistakes, and then we've got a ticket for the rest of the day and into the evening. So that's going to be plenty of knitting time, and it's really, really beautiful up there. I definitely will get some footage up there because it's in a very beautiful part of the world. What else can I tell you? First of all, I'll tell you, what did I take as my travel knitting? Well, I took a mussel borough hat, and I cast on this hat the night before we left, and I knitted it during our trip, and I finished it on the night that I got back. So I knitted this mussel borough hat in a week with a bit of old stash yarn that I had, which is again some speckled sock yarn from hedgehog fibres. And here it is, finished hat, mussel borough hat, finished in a week. I'm going to give it to my dad to go on his annual fishing trip, which he always does every year at about the end of August. So that was my travel knitting. And highlights of the day, one of the funny things was Donna was wearing a wurvel, from La Bien Amie, a knit that's actually from the Neons and Neutrals book that was released last year. And it's this pullover here. Super bright. And she actually has knitted it in that exact same colourway because she bought the kit from them. Anyway, I was glad that she was wearing that because whenever I was walking around the show, if I thought I'd lost her, I could just look for someone with look for the neon jumper in front of me, and I found her. But as we were walking into the Tarn Duan Court stall, one of the Tarn Duan Court owners, one of the guys, this really tall guy, he saw her from a distance, and I don't know if he recognised her. He said to her, "Hello," and then he leaned up and he pulled off this skein of fluoro pink yarn, and he goes, "I've got something for you," and he's waving this at her. Talk about sales, you just pick up something and say, "Buy this," and she goes. And another highlight was when she was looking at some yarn and there was a woman standing behind her that said, "I recognise that hat," and Donna turned around and went, "Oh, hello, thank you for designing this nice hat." It was kind of cool. And I feel like if you're a knitting designer, you must really get excited when you go to these shows and you see things that people are wearing that you designed. I feel like that must be very satisfying. And I guess Susanna from Sanna and Co, she must have been delighted at the show because the number of Alma cardigans that I saw at the show, there were so many of them, and every single one of them looked great. So I can't wait to get that on the needles. And the other great thing about that pattern is if you have a look at it on Instagram, I'll link in the notes below, she showed every single one of her test knitters. And so if you want to see what it looks like in every single one of the many sizes, there's pictures of each of the test knitters projects in her Instagram page. It's such a great idea. It's really good. And I'm looking forward to that. So, getting towards the end now, I will show you one. I'm not going to go through my whips or do anything like that. We've talked enough. But, okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate your time because everybody's time is precious, and I hope you got some good knitting done. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Open air, side by side we sway there in all the colors.